Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Farmer Tan Podcast. We are fresh off a monster truck show in North Platte, and we're raring to get going. So come right back. We're going to talk about what's wrong with country music today, putting different engines in pickup trucks. We might have a farm and ranch update, talk about calves a little bit, and we'll see what else we come up with. Make sure to come right back. I was thinking about what we were going to talk about today, or thinking about what we were going to talk about. I was thinking about that today, and everything I wanted to talk about is kind of a complaint, which is probably fair because, like you said, I think people can relate to that, but I don't want to be just a, gloom and doom, cloudy day type of podcast, but
I don't know why that's our tendency to always be negative either. I don't know why that's what we always reach for.
Well, I don't know either, but sometimes it feels good to complain.
No, it sure does.
So
I know some people say, complaining doesn't do any good. And I said, well, it never hurts to try. It might work one of these times.
Right. Yeah. It hasn't stopped me yet. So.
That's right.
So, all righty. Well, we'll see about getting something going today.
Okay.
Hello, Americans. This episode of the Farmer Tan Podcast is brought to you by Citrical. Nah, just kidding. It's actually brought to you by sunny days and cooler weather. And, buddy, I am excited that fall is finally on its way.
No, it's not here yet. Don't let the pumpkin spice fool you.
Oh, man, I tell you, there is nothing.
Just because they bring that out in August doesn't mean it's fall.
No, there is nothing worse. I hate pumpkin spice. Anything.
Oh, really?
I do. I despise it, but it signals the start of fall, and I am okay with that. So we are excited. We are excited about that. We are ready to rip off another excellent podcast. We are glad that you decided to join us today here in the West Warehouse Broadcasting booth. And don't forget, Farmer Tan Podcast is a podcast representing the 308. My name is Jake. I'm here with my buddy Jared, your co-host. And man, what's been going on your operation?
Well, I guess first off, you said something in the last podcast I found a little hurtful, untrue, frankly, just uncalled for. And that was, you referenced something very near and dear to me as hot garbage. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to clear that up. I brought Jake a Reese's Fast Break. It was just a fun size, and you could tell he went into it not wanting to like it because of what he said. It went down in one bite, the whole fun size bar. Yeah. And so would you like to rescind your comments on Reese's Fast Breaks?
All right. So I'm going to be honest with you. Reese's Fast Break, it tasted a little like eating crow. Because you're right. I wanted to hate it because I had kind of a hateful attitude towards it. And I told you off the air, so you know it's true. If Reese's peanut butter cups are 100%, I'm going to give a Fast Break 75. I did not hate it.
It's not bad for a first try. I'm saying it's going to grow on you. In 2 days, you're going to be hankering for one. So if you see Jake with the hood up, sunglasses on, staring at the floor in a gas station, shuffling to the counter, holding a couple Fast Breaks, you're going to know that's him as much as he's trying to hide it.
Yeah, I just, I'm going to eat it if it's offered to me. I don't know if I'm going to seek it out.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We will see. So this week, and I know we've about beat this horse to death, but I was shredding this week. And when we were talking earlier in the week, I messed up and I did say mowing.
You just got it right. Finally, the subconscious knows what's right. He's just saying it to be a pain, everybody.
But I promise I didn't mean it.
Which I respect. I do like that.
The thing of it is, and here's the thing, right? So a mower is a finely tuned piece of landscaping machinery. And this could not be farther from that. I mean, this was a Mad Max tractor-powered death machine. I was going after weeds as tall as the tractor hood, fence posts, plum thickets, medium-sized saplings, whatever is in the road. We were shredding it.
What was that?
We were shredding it down.
I heard a
Well, that's the sound a cow makes. But okay, so here's the thing. Mowing or shredding doesn't matter. but I put the batwing on. It was time to go clean up some corrals. We didn't have anything in these corrals over the summer, and it is. I mean, weeds are prolific.
Oh man, just the smallest rain, if corn or anything could shoot up like a pigweed can. Just astounding.
Yeah, it was, and so yeah, just needed to get those cleaned up a little bit, and so I had a little time and mowing around the place and stuff too. So I decided I was going to put the 70-45 Alice on there. No loader on it right now. My 215 still had the loader on, and it gets kind of hard to maneuver around in tight places with that on. So I decided I was going to put the Alice on there. Air conditioner is a little soft. It sort of needs recharge, but I got the condenser leaking, and I didn't want to put a bunch of Freon in it, and then have it leak over winter. And I keep thinking, pumpkin spice is here. We have got to be close enough to fall. Before long, I won't need it. And so I was just going to tough guy it and open the windows, and life was going to be good. And I was doing it in the evening, and it was decently nice. And so that's what I did. And, I got about maybe 5 minutes into my shredding project, and there was a skunk that announced his presence to the world.
No.
And before everybody gets twisted up, the skunk was fine. He ran out of the tall stuff and out across some of the things I'd shredded down already, and he was perfectly fine. But he announced his presence in a large way, and that was a very disappointing. Probably 20 minutes after that.
So I know the conundrum you came across. Do I shut the windows and sweat it out, or do I smell the pungent aroma and leave them open?
Yep. We smelled like skunk is what we did.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I knew you're not a fan of heat.
I'm not. I am of the opinion that hot weather is fine. It has a time and a place, but if it was 40 to 65 just all the time, I'd be happy with that.
I could jump in with that.
So I left the windows open, and but anyway, we got a bunch of shredding done, and that was good. Really, we've had a pretty good week or whatever it's been since the last one. We got all the cane up and got it off the field, got third cutting alfalfa put up, did catch a little rain on that. I guess the big project, the last couple weeks we've been preconditioning calves, and so, weaning is probably 45 to 60 days off for us yet, but if we're going to spend the money to, precondition a set of calves, we'd like to get a little good out of some of that, and so we ran them through, starting to treat some pink eye, starting to treat some pneumonia, and so just decided we'd gather calves and get them treated and take care of that. And so that actually went pretty well. We did a couple different groups here the past week or so, and pretty well got them all taken care of, got them out to new pastures where they need to be, and all that sort of thing. So, what's been going on in your outfit?
So it's kind of been, I can feel harvest lurking around the corner. So this week has kind of been that button up everything that needs buttoned up before harvest hits. That maybe hasn't been urgent enough to go to the front burner. So maybe the major thing is making the last passes with the pivots on the corn. Might have to do another one on the soybeans before they're finished out. So getting that taken care of. Same thing with the pipe. I'm going to need to pick that up soon. But this week's just kind of been tying up a lot of loose ends. I was going to finish up drilling the cover crop of wheat for my brother and stuff, but had to break down on the drill. Going to be a little while for the parts are in. So it's the kind of the impending feeling this week is how busy next week's going to be. It's kind of been one of those where I can bale some cane for my landlord because it's not dry yet. That's going to be next week. I haven't gotten the corn head out because it's been muddy over by that building, so that's got to be pushed to next week. So there's a lot of things stacking up on next week. On top of getting ready for wet corn harvest, we are going to do some wet corn. Last year we did some of that, starting with dry land. We really liked that. Stopped a lot of the head shelling. Dryland corn tends to get so dry so fast. We tend to have a lot of head loss on it. So we're going to get ready to do some wet corn. And yeah, I think that could be happening as soon as late next week. So by the time this podcast airs, we might be picking some wet corn.
Yeah, doing some wet corn. Do you got any beans starting to turn down there?
Not yet. I know the bottoms of the plants are yellow, but when driving by, you're not seeing it on top unless it's like an edge or a dryland corner that's kind of burned up a little bit. But otherwise, they're still staying a nice green color. We're kind of, this year, our shortest season's a 2.7, longest season's a 3.3, and we did that because we anticipated doing wet corn. And we've got some irrigated stuff that's just about to black layer, so that might even get thrown into the wet corn pile as well.
Yeah, so I took a load of feed north today and got north of Gothenburg and running through some hills up there, and the beans have that look to them.
Yeah, starting to get that dullish green.
They are.
Yeah.
And I actually went past a couple of fields that they really are starting to turn. I mean, that not quite, but there is some yellow patches, maybe where there was kind of a tough knob or, whatever it was going on. But so I think
it won't be long.
It's going to go in a hurry.
Yeah.
For sure.
Every year it's just that harvest moth streak and feel it lurking out there where nothing's going to get done but harvest. So hurry up and get all the odds and ends done that we can.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I was joking with another friend, and it's not a joke. It's not a laughing matter, but there's been a lot of hail in the area.
Oh, it sure has.
And that's what he was talking about. One guy that, out of however much corn he had, he's probably going to pick it all in 3 or 4 days because there's just a lot of fields that don't hardly exist anymore. So
yeah, I'd say we got 4 days knocked off ours.
Yeah. So that's kind of tough. We were fortunate where we are. We escaped all that. So we were good about that. But I know here a while ago, you and I were kind of talking about, you were wondering what to do with combines, or just, do you need to update, and is it worth it? And it's a big price tag. Do you recover it? What all is that worth? Luckily, you drug your feet just long enough that I think you're going to be able to get in. So Case IH, which is obviously the leader in combine technology,
has actually a harder argument to make for John Deere guys. I'll give you Case guys and combines.
So, but I see they're they're dropping their AF10 or 10 plus and 11 and all that. And I know they've been at some farm shows already. It sounds to me like maybe they're kind of about this year, sort of. They're going to be limited release next year to the population, and then in 26 or whatever, they're going to probably go full blown with it. But I was watching a YouTube video of that, and they are north of like 700 horsepower now.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to have like a 560 some bushel grain tank on them. And I mean, it's just outrageous. So, I mean, it's cool because I'm not in the combine market. I don't need to buy a combine. It doesn't really matter to me. And so just the innovation of it is cool.
It's almost like we're having a cold war of combines. Like, who can have the biggest and baddest? That's unnecessary. Just kind of like the nuclear stockpile during the Cold War almost. Right. But I'm just, man, the X9s and these AF10s and AF11s, there's just a few operations that really need those. I mean, it'd be great to have one, but I couldn't keep the corn away.
Yeah.
Don't have the manpower or the equipment to, not let that thing eat.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, I don't know if we're getting to that point in life where it's almost absurd how big.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's kind of, so I just wanted to feel you out, see if you're going to buy a new red combine.
Wow. No, I'd compare it to like the SUV race of the early 2000s where gas was cheap. And we're like, let's see how obnoxiously big and not fuel efficient we can make these things. And what ended up with what was it, the Excursion?
With the
one they just slapped it on a long bed pickup frame. Sure. Like, that is the epitome of the SUV race of the late 90s and early 2000s.
And I'm going to be honest with you, anytime that you can get something like that with a 7.3 Power Stroke in it, though.
Oh, absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with it.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying we're headed to that point.
I mean, I for the life of me don't understand. Maybe they have. I don't think so. Why has Chevy not made a Suburban with a Duramax in it?
Oh, I don't know.
Missing the boat.
No, missing it.
It. I mean, and you could come after Dodge a little bit, like, or Ram or whoever they are now, but
Fiat subsidiary.
Yeah, right. Speaking of red combines, and but how comes you don't have a Cummins in like a XL Durango type of thing?
Yeah,
but if you can put a Hellcat motor in anything, Dodge is trying to do it.
That's why I still have respect for Dodge.
Yeah.
All these other companies are kind of skewing to the point of lightweight and fuel efficient. And Dodge is all about like how much horsepower can we fit into the most unconventional things. They're still in that vein, and I have a lot of respect for that.
I do as well. I can appreciate that.
Oh,
And I got a buddy that lives in Omaha, super smart guy. He's an engineer in like the heating and cooling world for an engineering firm. And so just for fun, I call everything motors because that really irritates him. He's like, oh, really? He's like, since when did you have an electric tractor? And I'm like, well, I don't. You know, it's got a 500 cubic inch motor in it. And it just drives him crazy. So I do that just for fun. And I'm sure he's not listening to this, but if he ever hears it, he'll know what's up. So yeah, Hellcat motor, not an engine. It's a motor.
Yeah, that's kind of like soil scientist when we were referring to everything as soil, you know.
It's not
but
dirt.
Just say it kind of loudly to your friend over there, it looks like some good dirt there. Just to kind of be that guy.
Nobody has ever been standing around going, that's some good black soil.
Oh yeah, no.
That's good black dirt.
That's good black dirt.
Yep. That is a fact. So, all right, you brought up early 90s, mid 90s. And so we did not prepare for this. I did not tell you this ahead of time, but I think I am going to go there. Hot take right here. What is your impression, your take on the current state of country radio, country music?
Not a fan.
Ooh.
Not a fan of
Well,
current
don't hold
country.
back. Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, I was trying to be nice there, trying to be very, smoothing over. But no, I mean, I don't want to be that guy. That's just kind of how the industry goes because 90s country to a lot of people was kind of a little too close to pop or something like that, which I like a lot of 90s country. So now it's kind of nice all the options we have besides the radio. So I can just not listen to the new country station. And it's not like kind of growing up where if you're stuck with somebody who was driving that was their preference, that's all you had to listen to. So there's red dirt country now, and you can still listen to the classics. There's now classic country stations, which just shows you if those were created, what the current state of country is. Because if it was good, there'd be no need to make those stations.
Right. Yep. So I kind of agree with that. And the deal of it is, in the early 90s, early mid 90s even, Kenny Chesney's biggest problem is he was just confused about what the best type of tractor was.
Yeah, I mean, well, that and as soon as he went to the beach, his music just went downhill.
And that's my exact point. One minute he's riding around on a tractor, and then all of a sudden, he's hanging out on the beach with Uncle Cracker. And
oh yeah,
not that
that's right.
Not that I specifically dislike that, but the farther away that went, I'm like, yeah, I don't, and then you had Tim McGraw, and he trades in his Buffalo Briefs for Kmart cowboy cap, and
which I'm going to have to give a shout out to my granddad here. When Kenny Chesney was just up and coming, we liked his music, when he's singing Young and those songs, and he didn't much appreciate it, so we like to rib him about Kenny Chesney. Like, oh, how about we put on Kenny Chesney, and he kind of give us a side eye. Turns out Granddad was right about Kenny Chesney.
Yeah,
he saw that one coming.
He did. And so I don't know, we went through probably the early to early mid 2000s and I mean, here come all the skinny jeans, and it just, I liked some of Luke Bryan's stuff, not all of it, and we kind of kept headed down that road, but maybe it's because of technology. I do feel lately there's been a bit of a resurgence on some better stuff, in my opinion. And like you said, maybe it's because we have more avenues, but you listen to whoever, like Chris Stapleton, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that is out there that kind of sounds older, or just, yes, we know that you stayed out partying too much and you finally irritated your wife enough that, maybe she's not around anymore and your pickup popped out of gear and rolled down the hill and went in the pond, and your dog ran off to the neighbor's place and all that other stuff, and that was fine. I mean, I know everybody picked on early country music because it was all that, but then it really did turn into, oh yeah, we're partying in a cornfield stuff, and like, you couldn't find a cornfield if you had a map, and I don't know, once upon a time I heard, and I'm not picking on the demographic, but I heard the demographic that current country music was aimed towards. and it was suburbia, and it even maybe leaned a little towards, yeah, just suburban type of stuff to some of those folks. And the thing of it is that does not resonate. And real quick, I'm going to say guys, but what I mean is I'm addressing the group, everybody. So guys
we use guys pretty loosely out here.
Yeah, and it's not because we don't know what a guy is or a girl is. It's just we don't have time to sort that out, guys and girls all the time. So guys, right? But any of you guys out there that are, you're making fence, you're driving trucks, you're running farm equipment, you're pushing steel, you're laying concrete, you're doing whatever it is, and that pop country doesn't resonate with any of those people. Now that we have the ability to go find something else, we're doing it.
Yeah.
And so I would like to see how that demographic is changing, and I'd like to see what is happening to like the more pop style country artists, if they're falling out of favor, or if there's just enough suburbanites, it doesn't matter.
So what I've noticed is this is kind of, fan of capitalism. I don't know there's a better economic system, but anything made by humans is faulted. So that includes capitalism. But
And
this is
music.
Yeah. But I think that's kind of what happened to the country music stars is they kind of changed their flavor, and they're now selling out arenas in Atlanta and Dallas in these big urban areas. So they don't need to, appeal to all the rural demographic, because that's not where the people and the money are at. And I've even heard that from now some other podcasts or stuff I listen to from famous people who traditionally listen to the hip hop and the pop. They start liking country. They're like, I kind of like the new country now thrown in with that. So I think they're just kind of figuring out like, hey, I can play less shows at bigger venues, which are in the bigger cities, rather than hitting all the county fairs and all this. So I don't think they're going to change. I don't think they're going anywhere. But you're right. I think even they realize the true country people have kind of cast them away. It just doesn't matter to them. They're getting their paychecks. They're living quite well. So
yeah, and I suppose they have a formula. They just type some words and they put it in the music food processor. And, it spits out a song, and that's why they all sound the same.
Something to do with lifted pickups and drinking and
all that.
And yes, girls they won't put a name to because it probably changes all the time.
Yeah. So I don't know. I was just curious what you thought, but like your point earlier, and I'll be honest, I don't listen to a lot of just live radio anymore. I typically listen to podcasts. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. If I am listening to music, it's usually stuff that I have found that's, on my phone. I will say when we start feeding calves in chore time and spending some more tractor time just in short bursts every day, I listen to My Bridge, which is a Christian, radio station around here, and they've got some really good stuff on there. So that actually tends to be what I listen to. Just not a whole lot of live radio anymore, but
no. And that we've talked before, the challenge with that is, you don't find those new songs that come out or you don't find those new artists. You kind of get stuck in the rut of what you know and what you stay with. So might be new Red Dirt artists, or there might be that new guy that's singing an old tune, but you're so much stuck into your library or your certain things, it takes you a long time to find them.
Yeah, it just ends up being a repeat of, Restless Heart and Black Hawk.
Oh, yeah. Which, I mean, nothing wrong with that. But
no, Little Texas.
Yeah, I kind of rely on other people and stuff you hear a song, you're like, boy, I like the way that sounds. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's so-and-so. And I would have never heard it if I didn't hear it from somebody else. The Coulter Walls of the world, Charlie Crockett's, and some of that. So
yeah, that's kind of the way I am too. So yeah, I don't know. So you're kind of getting ready for harvest, but get any time to clean pens, clean corrals? Have you got a chance to try out that fantastic new manure spreader yet?
I did. I was basically 2 days after I picked it up from you. So
well, I didn't get any hate mail, so maybe it's held together.
No, I think the only thing, which I'll even ask you this, the shear bolt broke on it once on a real wet load in the middle of a pile. That thing takes 2 shear bolts, right? Or was that just my fix to keep it from breaking one?
No, I think that particular one is supposed to have a pair.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with shear bolts. They're such a pain. They always break at the most inconvenient time. And, in my mind, they're a little too weak for what they're doing. So, but That one I was happy because when I saw the chain not moving, I was thinking I was going to have to scoop that whole thing out.
Yeah, gotta have
So having replaced a couple shear bolts was definitely a lot better than having to scoop out a manure spreader. But no, I finally was able to clean that out. So yeah,
Yeah, well, that's, if you're going to take my grandpa Fairley's approach, he always thought shear bolts were way too small. So,
oh yeah,
his fix to that was,
he's probably right.
yeah, we'll just grab a drill and drill them out and put the size in there that's supposed to be.
Exactly.
I don't know if that was always the best plan, but that was his plan. But yeah, I don't know. I sold Jared a manure spreader we had bought, new Idea 1 tandem axle, pretty decent little spreader, and we really thought we were going to use it a bunch, and it's like everything else, just don't have time to do as much as you think. Definitely needed a different hay rake more than we needed that manure spreader, so we sort of parlayed that into a new hay rake. You probably shouldn't sell things like manure spreaders to friends, because then you might not be friends anymore, but I am glad. I thought it was in pretty good shape, but you know how that is, and so I'm glad.
Well, I did recommend a baler to you. That's been nothing but a thorn in your side. So, if it was a lemon, I think we'd be even.
Yeah, the baler is not my favorite piece of machinery right now, but I am sure it is mine specifically, and I don't hold that against you. However, it will be the last of that particular brand, because if I manage
I have the exact same model and we've gone along great with it. So if it happens,
it depends on the day. If it was to catch fire, it is for sure going to go, and I might let the tractor go with it if I'm really grouchy. But
you're just trying to throw cigarette butts back in the belts when you're baling, or
right? Yeah, I just drop them out the back, and that sort of thing. But yeah, we've really got to get some pins cleaned. Aaron's been saying that for a while now, and we have got to get some stuff scraped. But you know how it is. You think there's 50 loads of manure there, and there ends up being 100. And man, I just, with the feed store and the other stuff we got going, I just don't have time to take care of that like I should. And so we decided to look at the avenue of, we'll just hire a custom guy to come in and get it spread. But I do need to go scrape and get it all pulled up, piled up nice for him and that sort of thing. And
the other thing that kind of happens with manure is it is never a problem for you until it's full of cattle and you're out there in it and you can't clean it then. So the summertime or whenever there's no cattle in there and you could be spreading it, it's not bothering you.
Yeah,
you pay no mind to it.
That is a fact. And we have got a pretty good stockpile piled up, and we've probably scraped for 3 years now.
Oh yeah,
we just keep building the pile up.
Building the pile. That's what I did, and I had it on the upper end of the pen, thinking I'd have it out pretty quick. And it was just kind of a 5-year cycle of piling it up, letting the rain wash it down to the bottom of the pen, bringing it back up, putting it in a pile, having the rain wash it back down again.
Yeah, and I put mine on the low side of the pen because
that's smarter.
Well, you'd think, but then if you get any wet weather and you have a chance to haul manure because you can't do anything else, now that is the last area to dry. And so that was part of the reason for shredding pins a little bit, was to get them weeds knocked down, and we'll take speed mover and go drag them up again and do whatever. And hopefully, we do the drive it up and over pile, and we just keep piling up and up and up, and hopefully that goes well. But once upon a time, we had a 7130 Magnum front wheel assist, and we had a big old, there's a company around here, they make a Manco, humongous heavy built speed movers, a lot like a Northman. They're built pretty similar, big heavy ones. My neighbor's got one, and so I borrowed it from him, and we had it on that 7130, and I won't say who was scraping because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but they got a little close to the far side of the pile and slid the Magnum off the side of the pile just a little bit, which didn't turn into too big a problem, except it didn't take a whole lot of wheel spinning before suddenly that thing was sitting on the belly. And, you know how it is, the speed mover was trying to follow. And so even with it lifted clear up, now it's trying to pull the shoulder of the pile off, and it was very stuck. And so we kind of needed to go pull that out, and I didn't have the 215 around at the time. We had that 7045 Alice was the handiest thing at the moment to try to pull it with. And so we have one of those great big blue tow ropes, not the straps, but the big.
Oh yeah, I got one of those. Been real good. Real handy.
Woven braided ropes, and I'm holding my hands up so everybody in radio land can see how big around it is.
You should be able to tell by looking at it.
Yep. And you'd know if you could see.
If you turn your volume up, it might make it clear.
Yeah, right. So we decided, well, we're gonna go tie onto it with that thing, and so we got hooked on the Magnum with it. I put a round bale on the bale carrier on the Alice so that we had plenty extra weight, and it still had the loader on the front, and so we hooked onto that thing in big clevises, and I know, I get it. I don't need you guys flaming me for it. It's not the best way to do it. We told everybody to duck. We all lived, but we tried to pull nicely, and that didn't work, so we tried to apply some more force, and that did not work. So then we really decided to get after it because it was kind of the last-ditch effort, and I really wasn't interested in borrowing the neighbor's tractor to pull my tractor out of the manure pile. You just don't want to have to admit that really to anybody at the time, and we just really needed it, to be out of there because honestly, the way it was sitting, we were not entirely sure if it was going to stay upright. Like it needed to come out now, and so tied onto that. Aaron got in the Magnum. I was in the Alice. And backed up and slacked that rope pretty good. And that Alice is a 6-speed power shift. And so you can go into third with the clutch in. After that, it'll try to bring it back to third for you. So I was in third. It's got a foot throttle on it. And so we locked the differential together and gave her some throttle and let the clutch out. And as soon as it took off, we mashed foot throttle clear to the floor and clicked it into fourth. And I'm here to tell you I had a run at that thing when we hit the end of the rope because, if you've been around those, the kinetic energy stored in that rope is better than the tractor that's pulling it even. And so we stretched that thing out, and it got about as big around as a garden hose. And I was just, I was starting to wonder if we needed if this was really the best idea, right? And so that old Alice, man, it hit that into that thing with a full head of steam. And, it dug in pretty good, and we picked the front wheels up, even with the loader on it. And with about its last gasp of air before we completely snuffed it out, it dug enough of a hole that it anchored itself. And pretty soon that rope starts pulling on that Magnum, and here it come. And we did get it pulled up out of there, and very thankful for that. But I don't think it probably did the rope any favors. It probably didn't do either one of the tractors any favors, but we won.
That's right.
And that is the point is
show that manure who's boss.
Yes. Take that, you turd. And anyway, I don't recommend that at home. Please be careful if you're pulling on stuff. It was probably really not the best idea ever.
Yeah,
but
do what we say, not what we do.
Yeah. We were getting desperate and frustrated, and so last ditch effort type of thing. But
yeah, our main manure pile was getting to the point the boys leveling referred to it as Poop Mountain.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of things that you could name that, really.
No, I know. It just comes about better when it's from kids who don't know how to embellish yet. That's just the honest truth.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Well, that's a fact. And I've actually had weeks before that resemble Poop Mountain.
Poop Mountain weeks. Yep. Yep. For sure.
Oh man. Yeah. I love that. That's good stuff. So it got pins all, well, I suppose that was maybe a happy coincidence, I guess, if there was such a thing with the hailstorm, as it freed you up a little.
That's
space.
what I was just thinking. I was trying to think, how did I have time to clean all those lots? And you're right, it was right after the hailstorm.
And then you had a place to spread it.
Yeah, exactly. I went out on the cane that got hailed and spread it out there. So you're right. It was just kind of the perfect culmination. I've been trying to get rid of these manure piles for at least 5 years.
Yeah.
And finally got it done.
Yeah, well, good.
Good feeling.
If you get bored this winter, you can bring the spreader back and haul out the pile.
I'll sure let you know.
I don't want to use it. I just want to hire you to do it.
Oh, okay. So. Well,
yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think how bored I'd have to be for it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so growing up on a dairy, we hauled a lot of manure. That's just...
Yeah, I could see that.
If somehow you weren't already doing something else, that was just a standing order to haul manure. And
so it's one of those things, if you look not busy, it was go haul manure.
Yes.
So you got to try to look busy at all times.
Yeah, but the other thing of that is actually hauling manure is not the worst job ever.
It's just redundant. It's just,
yep.
I mean, at first you're like, boy, we're making progress. And then, 15 loads later, you're like, I don't think this pile shrunk in 5 loads.
Yep, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And so on the dairy, the milking herd, that pen was all concreted. And so they lived on the concrete. The loafing sheds we bedded with sand. And so, we would scrape those every day or, every other day. And so it was about the consistency of like stiff concrete, like wet concrete. Because of the sand and everything. There was no straw in there to bind it together, certainly no dirt from a dirt lot. And so we didn't really, we did haul quite a bit with just back beaters, but as manure spreader technology increased, we ended up with a like a Knight, one of the front discharge side spreaders, and it had hammers in it like a hammer mill, and then it had a slide gate and a set of big augers that brought it to the front. We had either a Gale or a New Holland version of that first, which was okay. Tried it out to see if that was something we'd even like, and it worked pretty good. And then Dad found that Knight somewhere, and I think he's got a big version of Kuhn Knight now. But anyway, we really liked that. And man, you could paint that stuff on as thin or as thick as you wanted, and it worked really well. And actually, I think my dad and my brother started top dressing alfalfa like in the fall with it when they were done cutting hay for the year. They'd go spread that on because you could put it on really thin and it didn't hurt anything. It had the winter to kind of incorporate on its own. And my brother said it does a tremendous job of fertilizing alfalfa. So that was good. The problem is, where do you haul manure?
Yeah, that's kind of, because it seems like the summer works the best if you can't do the dead of winter. But you're probably the same as us. The winter is when your corrals are filled with cattle. That's when you're actively feeding, or they're coming in off stalks and they're watering there. Besides the point of having a manure spreader that can handle frozen chunks of manure that are on top of a pile. So
yeah, and so it ends up in one of them deals where, if you end up with a chance to haul manure, your time is so limited that it gets hauled in the field directly
right
behind the barn, next to the pile, just wherever.
If it doesn't have something growing in it.
Yeah, if it doesn't have something growing in it. And at some point you over apply to that field, and so we just had to start hauling to fields farther away, which is great, but you can't stockpile wet concrete manure. That doesn't work, so you about got to haul it and spread it. And so we kind of kept getting bigger spreaders to make that trip more worth it. And there's certainly a bunch of fertilizer value to the manure, so you want to be able to take advantage of it. And we chopped a lot of silage, and so that was always an open spot. You'd chop silage and then you'd start spreading in the fall or whatever. But I remember we had it was an International, a 3688, and we bought that probably when I was in high school somewhere. And we had a 1370 case, and we put on a lot of anhydrous. It was kind of our big tillage tractor, putting on a lot of anhydrous with it and that sort of thing. And I think we broke something in that tractor, and I don't remember what, but it was in the spring when we were really needing to be doing some field work, and we were kind of needing another tractor anyway. And Dad found out this one was for sale, and it was from a guy. He's a town or two over. He did a lot of tractor pulling, and he actually ran like a super farm, and then I think he built some sort of a limited pro or whatever after that. Not out of this tractor, but he enjoyed having horsepower. And he had taken really good care of this 3688, and he had it for sale. And so we went, looked at it. Yep, we liked it. Bought it. I drove it home. We used it to put on some fertilizer and stuff in the spring. And anyway, it was naturally aspirated, straight pipe, chrome stack. And that thing, like, it did not beller. It cackled. It was so loud. But anyway, man, did it pull, right? So we put it on the same field cultivator that 1370 pulled, and it pulled it almost every bit as good as that thing. And it would pull. And it had the throttle stop on it. On a dark night, hard pull, if you went around the throttle stop clear wide open, you'd get the cone of fire out the exhaust pipe, which was fun for just a little bit, but knew better than to do too much of that. But anyway, it ran well. But I remember my brother was hauling manure with it, and he was leaving a field. It was about a mile away, or maybe a little farther even. And I'd be out scraping or doing whatever, and I could hear him leave the field. You could hear him all the way back to the place, and then you could hear him all the way back to the field loaded. You could hear him cut the throttle to pull in the drive, and then you kind of didn't hear it for a while. Then pretty soon you'd hear it rev up again. Well, he made it to wherever he needed to start spreading again. That tractor was so loud, but man, I love that thing. I think, well, Dad still got it. It's probably got a pile of hours on it compared to what it did then, but I would love to have that tractor back in the shape it was in when we first bought it. It was a phenomenal tractor. But
Yeah, speaking of manure, how are the manure makers looking? No, you preconditioned calves and run them through. Are you happy with how things are growing this year?
yeah, for the most part, the calves look pretty good. I think overall we have been pretty happy with that. Pink eye has been a thorn in the side this year. Have one pasture that has got a little bit of a pink eye history to it, but we have treated a fair amount of calves for pink eye this year. Another pasture we have, and I think it's because they just got a trail so far to water. We end up with some dust ammonias sometime in that pasture, and those calves just following cows down a cow trail, and they're in that dust. Really they look pretty good. Treated some pneumonias, just decided to go ahead and precondition and kind of see if we couldn't help put a stop to that. But we've had a pretty good year, but we ran through a stretch there in July and the first part of August. We've been plenty dry, and so just seeing some effects of that. But yeah, overall, I think we've been pretty good with them. How about you guys?
Yeah, I've been really happy with how the calves have grown this year. Was a little worried early on, get that really lush green grass seems to just kind of run through everything. Just gets to be too much moisture, kind of doesn't seem to put pounds on. It just goes through their system so fast. There's not a lot of good nutrients in it. But about the time it dried up in July, that grass dried out. I mean, calves were even growing good in that early part, but man, they really did take off during that when the grass got a little harder. So been very happy with how the calves have grown all in all. So, and like you said, the calf market's been good for the most part. Taking a bit of a pounding here lately, but with the way things are looking, I'm very happy with how things have grown and the shape the cows are in. I mean, they're staying in really good shape despite raising such a fast-growing calf.
Yeah. I think calves have been growing. I don't know. You said the markets, and I don't understand. I've talked to some guys, and maybe we'll have to get Garth on here, local marketing guy. Maybe he can shed some light on it. But I've kind of visited with him a little bit, and I mean, they're not following fundamentals really at all, right? I mean, there's no reason right now for the market to have backed off other than they're going to say, well, supply and demand and time of year and all that, which is probably true, but we've shrunk the cow herd enough that I just cannot imagine, there's going to be that many calves coming to market.
I actually talked to him 2 days ago, and he actually told me to put this in the podcast, but we were talking about calves, but he said, we're at the lowest total number of cattle and beef cattle since, 48 to 51. And he said, so I was thinking, well, are they importing more? Is that why, this market's falling off? He said, no, not enough to really make a difference for what we are short in that area. And he said the funds right now are short 4,000 contracts, which is second only to the COVID era.
Really?
So he said, stuff isn't making sense right now. And he said, when we can move through some averages, it could really get to moving. Because, I was kind of kicking myself for not putting LRP on these calves. When these markets kind of went down, I'm like, well, maybe I should now, which would be a typical me move. Wait until it's down and then put LRP on just to watch it rally and, not kick in or not help me out at all. But yeah, no, we got to have Garth on sometime. We will. You guys will get to meet him. But yeah, he listens to the podcast, and he told me to throw that in there. Make me sound smarter than I am, but it was really Garth.
Yeah. And, I guess we'll just throw that out there. This is, a free little bump here. Anderson Ag Services for all of your livestock and grain marketing needs. But yeah, we should. And, interestingly enough, I don't know if we sound better today or not. I guess that'll remain to be seen, but we did get some new podcasting equipment we're working on today. And so if we still sound a little rough, we're trying to fine tune all this stuff, but we have the ability to add extra mics now. And so, I guess let us know what you think about having special guests, but we're kicking around that idea of just having some local business folks and other people involved in ag and maybe getting doing some special guests and just having some fun with that. So yeah, Garth is definitely on the list to have him come in here and maybe explain the markets to us, because I'm not smart enough to understand when to buy.
No, half the time he calls me and explains things, I pretend like I know what he's talking about, but when he says I did some of this on my own stuff, that's a good enough selling point.
Yeah,
I don't need to understand it.
Right. Well, and the thing that I understand is at the moment nothing makes sense, and so I don't. I guess that's just the way it is. So hopefully we see a rally in the market. I don't think you're the only one in that boat for sure that did or didn't do anything. So I think there's probably lots of folks hoping for a little correction in the market, and it'll come. I mean, it always does.
Just a matter of when.
Yeah, matter of when. Like a rainstorm, it'll show up at some point.
Yeah, that's what everybody in the drought says, when's it going to rain? And, we're one day closer to the next rain. So
every drought ends with a rain.
That's right.
I guess. But, speaking of that, we ran down to Beloit, Kansas here last week or 2 weeks ago. Now I can't even remember because time's getting away from me. But those folks down there are dry. We went down to take a look at a feed truck and so drove through some of that country down there south of Hastings and that sort of thing on the way to Beloit, and you could definitely tell crossed a line in there, and I think that is drier country anyway, but they were dry. They were chopping finishing chopping some silage, and it looked plenty dry already. So I don't know. There's a pretty good stretch of folks I think that are kind of needing some rain. So.
Yeah, it seems to be real small pockets that are in some pretty significant drought. Just kind of few and far between, which I've certainly been a part of those little pockets. You'll just watch the drought monitor, and they say the area is not in drought. And you're like, well, come over here and take a peek, and guarantee you're going to find something different.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so we ran down there. It was time to start doing a little updating. On the store side, business has been doing pretty well. Definitely starting to move a bigger pile of bulk feed than just what we were able to keep up with the current delivery truck. And so looking to be a little more efficient. And so we found a truck down there, had to go take a look at that, and actually liked what we saw. So we went ahead and brought that home. But
oh man, I love semi shopping.
Yeah, I do too. So we actually ended up with, I know we talked about this on an earlier podcast, what's a semi versus a truck and all that other stuff. Yeah. But actually ended up with a straight truck out of that deal, T800 Kenworth twin screw. It's got a big cat in it, so yeah, we're running a C15 out of that thing now. And
I love those things.
Yeah, so
love them.
I think Cody is excited to get a chance at that, but like everything does, it takes a while to get the title, and it takes a while to get insurance figured out, and it just takes a while. So it's been sitting in the yard, and everybody has to look at it, but we can't use it yet until we get it.
But I think kind of one of the best things about semi shopping with pickups or any other vehicles, you're getting that company with their motor, with their transmission, and it's exclusive to that company. Where trucks, you can mix and match engines, transmissions, rear ends. You can find one just about the way you want it. So I always say kind of the best pickup would be a 90s style Ford body with a Cummins in it and an Allison transmission behind it. Well, you can kind of get that in the semi if you want. And you'll never find a pickup with that combo unless you got a really good shade tree mechanic who has time on his hands. But so that's what I always like is you find a motor you're kind of inclined to. You kind of find how many speeds you want, what kind of rear ends work for you. Are you going over the interstate or pulling hills? And then you can go with what kind of body you want. Do you want a Peterbilt Kenworth Freightliner, Western Star, not a Volvo?
Right. Yeah, not a Volvo. And yeah, you're right though. Like, so my favorite, my favorite Ford body style is probably. I really like what would they be? Like really late 90s.
Yeah, kind of I think 97 was the last metal kind of what they call square bodies.
Yep. So from there, really all the way back to, we had an 88 that was still very similar. Now, I don't exactly know body styles on those Fords long enough, but I had a 97 F-250 that was basically the same body style as like an 87 or 88 that Dad had. And so really, but if I could go back, and I mean, really a Power Stroke is a Navistar, which is a International Harvester anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
And
that's
so
true.
I would love to have like a 97 Super Duty with a 466 International in it. I think that would be, and I have plans to do that someday. I don't know that they'll ever happen, but I would like your red pickup, that body style. Man,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, the 466, especially like in the tractor pulling world, diesel drag racing world, any of that kind of stuff. I mean, that's the small block Chevy of the diesel performance world on that side. I know there's a lot of stuff for Cummins and all that, and that's all great, well and good, but I would love to have, I mean, you can put all sorts of Hypermax stuff, you can throw stuff all day at that 466, and I think it'd be fun to pull up in that body style of Ford and have 2,500 horse right there under your foot. And
I just heard recently that for one of the Cummins engines or some of the Dodge pickups, it only takes one adapter plate to put a 10-speed onto that motor. I didn't know it was quite that simple, but boy, that'd be fun.
That would be fun, unless you're in Columbus, Nebraska.
Oh, man.
And you'd be forever stuck in low range.
Yeah, I was just trying to think. There's no way to really bypass that town either.
There's not
There's
if you need
rivers
to be there.
and yeah.
And you can go east and west fairly easily in this state. You start going north and south, sometimes that's more of a challenge. It does not.
It's kind of like those small towns, but that flashing four-way, and their logic is, well, if people slow down, they'll want to stop and visit. I'm like, no stop sign or stoplight has made me want to change my plans. It just makes me aggravated. I think that's kind of Columbus's policy. Is like, if we slow you down at every single stoplight, no matter what, you'll eventually pull over.
Maybe you'll stay a while
and do some business.
Yeah.
But
joke's on them.
I can't hit that narrow bridge out of town fast enough.
That is, yeah, no kidding. Jared's run a little feed for us out of there too before, and it is, and they've got road construction going on right now, which I know that is a necessary evil, and that's all fine. But
my introduction to Columbus was actually my older brother Scott bought a car up there, and we went and picked it up in a blizzard. I mean, full on blizzard.
Well, why wouldn't you?
It was really cold. And he had me drive that not a new car. It was a used Taurus he got for kind of running around college and stuff.
Taurus SHO?
I'm not even sure, but I mean, like I said, wind was blowing. It was super cold. And I didn't care that he was driving a car he just bought. I stopped at Dairy Queen and got a meal. I'm like, I'm not driving back in a blizzard hungry.
No, what if you run off the road?
Well, that's right. Got to have something to live on.
Something to live on. Yeah.
Good news is traffic was light.
I suppose it would be. Yeah. Boy. And now they've gone away. As much as the four-way stop is disappointing, and it's disappointing, but when you're pulling a load and you have to stop, it's always disappointing.
Yep.
But even when you get downtown here in Gothenburg and everything downtown's four-way stops.
Yep.
And the disappointing part is people don't know how to operate a four-way stop, right? So the first person there has the right of way. If you tie when you get there, it's the person to the right.
Yep.
If you're both going straight, obviously, you can just go.
Yep.
And if we get there at the same time across from each other and I am turning left and you're going straight because I am crossing your path, you have a right of way.
And one of the more annoying things is if you're opposite of each other and you're both turning right, no one needs to go first.
Right.
Just go.
And I cannot tell you how many times, like, somebody was sitting there when I was a half a block away, so I get up there and stop and wait, and they give me the go-ahead arm, and I'm like, you could have went 3 times before I got here. Anyway, you get, what's the legal requirement? 3 seconds? Three Mississippis is how long you got to stop?
Yeah, I suppose.
That is what you get. I pull up there. If you have not made a decision by then, I punch it.
Yep.
And away we go.
Yep.
And if I meet another guy there with the same philosophy, we're probably going to have a fender bender. But I do not got all day for us to decide who is going to take off. This is not Iowa. We're not going to have a standoff. If you're there first, go.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just obey traffic laws out here.
I mean, I'm all in favor of Nebraska nice.
Yeah.
But somebody take a stand.
And there's some times where you nice going against traffic laws creates a lot of confusion.
Lots.
Because actually in college, I was a passenger in a car that got in an accident because someone waved us across without checking the other lane. So that's sometimes when being nice doesn't really help.
Yeah,
Not saying you should be mean in traffic. Let's not be that way, but you know.
But you got to take a stand.
Yeah, I mean, just be assertive, right?
Yeah, right. And stand your ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so in Gothenburg and it is needed for sure, but they've been doing a lot of like street construction over the course of the summer, and so there's been some detours, and it's kind of hard to get to where you need to go, and that is still continuing, which it is needed. So I'm not complaining about that. I'm ready for it to be done.
Yeah,
for sure. But anyway, today I was leaving town with the semi actually, and I needed to get to Highway 30. So we're on the south side of the tracks. Highway 30 is north of us. That's where I was trying to get. UP was parked across the crossings because that's what they enjoy doing. And so I had to go up over the overpass, which ends you up not in the middle of downtown, but it dumps you out kind of in town, which isn't a huge deal either, except part of where you would normally go is blocked off because of street construction. And so kind of had to wind around to get back to 30. And it wasn't really a big deal, but it gave me plenty of opportunity to think about how much I dislike the railroad some days.
Yeah.
And I am sure there's upper level UP management listening to this podcast now. And so please just take this to heart. You might have built America, but at the moment you are irritating America. And here's why, right? You got to park a train. I understand that. There was 10 cars west of the west crossing. And then there was about 12 cars east.
So they're blocking both
of the east crossing, and no engine on either end.
Oh, nice.
And if you would have just moved that, the equivalent of 30 cars, you could have used both crossings, but you certainly could have used one. And I swear, and they're going to be like, well, you got to block both crossings because, if you unhook it and then you can't see down the other track and whatever else and safety hazard or whatever. But why can't you just pull it out east of town or west of town on one of those sightings and park it? Like, I don't understand the point.
I mean, they block a crossing. It's no big deal. I park on a crossing and boy, everybody gets all excited.
Yeah, right. All of a sudden the sheriff shows up, wants to know what you're doing.
Golly.
Yeah.
Double standard.
We had a friend, and I'm not going to tell you who he is, but if you know, you'll know. And he drove a pickup they used to call the White Beast, and I'll have to ask him for sure. I think it's like a 76 or a 78 half-ton two-wheel drive Chevy, and he drove it pretty well, as in used it up pretty well, I think. And he was having some troubles with the White Beast, and I don't know if the secondaries were hanging up in the carburetor, and so it was loading up on him, but it wasn't running real great. And he went to go across the tracks, and he got across two of them, and it dies on him. Well, then he can't get it to fire, and so he's sitting there like like trying to fire, like come on, and like it won't fire, and like there's a light coming, and he's like come on, like it won't fire, and so he jumps out and he's trying to push it, and I honestly cannot remember. I think it was the town police officer, one of them, like, what are you doing? And he's like, help me push this.
Yeah. Trust me, I'd get out of here if I could.
Right? He's like standing on the track trying to decide if the train's like coming down one of the tracks, because there's 3 tracks there.
Oh, yeah.
And he was covering the first 2, and it was actually on the 3rd track. And if I remember right, the thing finally lit for him and he got out of there. It was probably not as close as the story sounds, but anytime you're dead on the railroad tracks, it's still a cause for excitement.
Oh, yeah. The other complaint I'm going to bring up about trains is you're out in the country, there's a gravel road coming up to a crossing, no lights or anything. I know it is official rules that you must blow your horn when you're coming to a railroad crossing. But I've been sitting there for a while. You've seen me parked there for quite a while. There's no one else coming, no dust cloud. This is just a little podunk crossing. do we really need to give it all it's got as you go by when I'm the only one sitting there? I mean, it just seems a little excessive to give 3 long horn blast when it's pretty clear I see you, I'm not crossing, I'm parked there and no one else is coming. I don't need the full force of the train horns.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know the official rules, and so I'm probably speaking out of turn, but I don't understand, even in town, when you are through all of the crossings, still laying on the horn.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm not sure what we're gaining. You've either hit me or you haven't.
Right.
There's no crossing left. We can see you.
Yep.
But, there again, not an engineer, don't work for the UP, I don't know the rules. It is what it
I'm
is.
sure they got to follow them. It's not the conductor's fault, but just the policy in general. I mean, I feel like there's always rules are made for the least careful of all of us or the least common sense, and everybody has to follow those when most people could probably work outside those rules and be just fine. So,
Yeah, I kind of think that's right. And I don't know, Aaron and I were talking about this earlier today. And we talk about common sense and how it's not terribly common anymore. And, what's wrong with this generation of kids? They don't have no common sense. But part of what I wonder is where does common sense come from?
it's a fair question.
There is certain things that you probably instinctively know, but a lot of it is stuff that you have just picked up. You might have not been directly taught, but you have picked up over time by watching what your mom or dad did, by just picking up on conversation that was being talked about. Some of this stuff that is common sense, it still has to be learned, right? And so
I think it's kind of a combination of that, watching people around you have good common sense and also being allowed to fail. I mean,
right.
it's kind of a parenting tip I've hung on to, but they said, let your kids do dangerous things safely.
Yeah.
So I think kind of our tendency anymore is to just prevent kids from getting in any danger, any situation where they might get hurt. And yeah, you want to keep them from being seriously hurt or even really hurt. But I mean, if they're doing something and you've kind of instructed them against it, or it's a little risky, but the risk of injury isn't great, let them learn that lesson. That's kind of, I think, another thing that develops common sense.
Yeah, I think so. And now this is going to be my example. Now don't take this to be this is what I think you should do. It's just a really easy example. So we all know that you don't stick your pocket knife in the outlet on the wall, or a screwdriver or a paperclip or whatever it is. Like, and I'm not saying you should let kids do that. That is not what I'm saying. But I am saying at this point in life, we all know that. But would you know that if you came from a world with no electricity and no outlet, you showed up here, saw an outlet, saw a screwdriver that fit in the slot, would you know not to do it?
That's a fair point.
I mean, you probably not. But at some point in life, either you did do it and got a little tingle, or somebody, instructed you, hey, don't put anything in there because you're going to get hurt, right? And so what I wonder, has it been a failure by society, by parenting in general, not picking on anybody, but just, blanket statement, because we have failed to be teaching some of that, quote, common sense stuff? Is it a failure because at some point we have not let kids make mistakes? Like, it hurts to fall down, but unless you fall down, you don't know that. You got to let a kid fall down. Hey, be careful riding your bike. There's loose gravel there. You might wipe out. You tell them 2 or 3 times, and then after that, well, then they wipe out and they go, oh, that's what Dad was talking about. They learn that. But I also sort of think, and I am guilty of this a little bit too. I've got 2 boys. One is super observant. The other one enjoys playing on the phone while we're driving places or doing things. Maybe we are not making them pay attention. And, the one kid, sometimes I wonder, like, I assume he knows how to get from like one town to the next, but I don't know because he's on his phone quite often when we're traveling. Oh, where are we at, Dad? And like, well, we're here or there, but he hasn't been watching the world go by. And so, and I'm not saying that's wrong. I mean, traveling with technology is helpful. Let the kids put on a movie or do something. Sometimes that's all helpful. But I don't know. I just wonder. We talk about common sense going extinct, but maybe it's.
And I think the other thing, and I'm guilty of this, and thankfully my wife Molly's a lot better about it than I am. But especially with young kids, it's just easier to tell them don't do something and not why you don't do that.
Because I said.
Yeah, it's basically like, well, don't stick that screwdriver in the outlet. And that's the end of it. When maybe some of it's like, don't stick your screwdriver in the outlet because you're going to get shocked by electricity and you're going to get really injured.
Yeah, and it's the travel of electrons from high pressure to low pressure.
Well, we don't need to get in that depth.
You're the low pressure, and then being you're grounded, and then the transfer of current across your heart, it's going to stop your heart and you'll be dead.
Yeah, I guess you could get that involved.
Well, I mean, maybe make your point. But I do remember my brother saying, and it was not him that did it, but I think he was in junior high or maybe in high school, and they were in the back of the room, and there was an outlet, in the wall, and some kid in his class, and I mean, the kid knew better, but I guess, I wonder what will happen, and so he straightened down a paper clip and then bent it into a horseshoe and shoved it in the outlet. Well, it got red hot, instantly, and he's like, oh man, so then he took a pencil and flicked it out of there. Well, it dropped on the carpet. Well, then it melts a horseshoe in the carpeting, and then the teacher's like, hey, what's that? Who's burning something? And so, I mean, there to some degree you can explain, but at some point they're going to do it anyway, I guess, if they want to. But
since we're on the topic of outlets and stuff, have you ever been shocked by a good current? I mean, it's a trip.
Obviously been nailed by electric fence some.
Yeah, no, I'm talking good AV current.
We had a little stray voltage one time in
AC. What am I thinking?
AC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yips.
AV is what? Alternative vehicle.
Just edit that out. I don't need to sound stupid on air.
Savannah at 1:10:48. Back that up just a minute.
Yeah, Jared had a blonde moment.
but we had a little stray current in a breaker box, like an auger box, and I got a little type of thing. Nothing severe though ever. I've been pretty fortunate there.
It's been 4 or 5 times. I've been hit by 240 and 110, both. I mean, just feels like a bunch of waves heading up your arm. It's kind of a weird feeling.
I have decided that I'm not gonna ride with you anymore.
Well, and I wouldn't be around me when I'm unplugging stuff. I'm trying to think how all this happened.
And I don't think I'm gonna hang out with you around electricity.
No, that's fair. It's fair. That's a fair point.
Like bad wire on an auger or what?
As I'm looking at power lines out the window.
Yeah, well,
what would that do?
Too close for comfort here anyway.
Yeah, I bet there's something a guy can learn from that.
I would think. Be more careful. Maybe. Use the back of your hand to touch the pivot tower before you just climb up it.
Yeah, that's kind of, when you're not sure an electric fence is hot or not, you kind of do the quick touch and then the little longer quick touch.
Yeah.
And then you do the third little longer quick touch before you completely grab it.
Yep. But if you hit all the pulses just right, you're still not entirely sure.
Oh, that happened. Then I went in and grabbed it with 2 hands and just felt the full force of the fencer.
That's a hoot.
Yeah.
There's this, I'll go ahead and tell this one too. There was, we were going for Thanksgiving, actually, going back to see my family, stopped by a group of cows on the way to pump water for them, and got out, and we have electric irrigation wells out here, so we water the cows out of that, no big deal. But the well had a fence between where I was and where I needed to get to the panel box. We had it fenced off so that, cows couldn't get over there type of thing and rub and cause grief. And so dug around in the back of the pickup. Well, there was a spade in the back of the pickup and like a round nose spade, not like a tile spade, not like a flat scoop, like a pointy spade, like you're going to chop a thistle with or dig in hard dirt with. So I grabbed that and I went over and I pressed the fence down with the nose of this spade and I stepped over it. And when I was committed to 1 foot on each side of the fence, the wire snaps off that spade and up the handle this thing is coming, right? So for one, I'm in good clothes. 2, I am completely committed to standing where I am standing, and here comes this fence. This is one of them, and it was probably like a 3-joule fencer, which, that's got a decent amount of pow in it, but it was plugged into like at the well. Like we had a 110 outlet wired in there. So I was like 20 feet from where it was plugged in. And all I could think is this is not the place to stand your ground.
Was it like those cats when you surprise them in those videos where they just kind of on all fours and just jump straight up?
It was exactly like so. In my
Erin
mind,
didn't laugh, did she?
And this is like Matrix style. Everything is slowed down, and I am thinking you've got to get out of here. And so straight up is where I was jumping, but then in some thought I went, well, I'm going to go straight up. I'm going to come straight down. I'm going to meet the fence rebounding the second time. So that is also not good. And so part way up, I'm half using the spade, half just willing momentum to go to the side. And so over I go, the wire comes up the inside of my leg, but I'm in the air. So it's not shocking me, but I know that I can't let that foot hit the ground. This is all happening in like 3 seconds, but I can't let the foot closest to the ground hit the ground because otherwise it's gonna fry me. So I basically just commit at that point to fold that leg up, and whatever will happen will happen. I finally got the one leg up and over the fence, crashed into a complete heap. I mean, complete heap. But because family is all present, like you do the instant pop up, like maybe they didn't see that. And I'm standing right in front of the pickup. I mean, literally right in front of the grill is where this happens. Pop straight up. Like I'm looking in the pickup, and my wife, tears running down. She is laughing.
Concern? Oh no.
Not even a little bit concerned. She is laughing so hard. And so now my knee hurts because I folded my leg up and just come crashing down. I did not get shocked out of that whole deal. Here's the worst part. This is the absolute worst part. From where I walked about another 50 feet and just slid the insulator down and crossed there. But that's what I was trying to avoid the first time was unneeded travel. So I go pump the water. I slide the insulator. I climb back over, slide the insulator up, throw the spade in the pickup, get back in. She is still just rolling. She's like, why did you do that?
It's like you could not walk cool enough to erase what just happened.
She is like, why did you do that, Well, the only defense I had was, I'm lazy and I didn't want to walk 50 feet farther. Well, that's 100 feet round trip, so I didn't want to go that. The other thing, and this is terrible, but I was like, I've been doing it all fall with an axe. Well, right, because an axe has
a broader surface.
Right, which is exactly what she pointed out. I thought I had the ability to balance that spade point on top of the wire. I just thought I was that good.
This is coming from the guy that explained how electrons jumped across your heart when you stuck something in an outlet.
Yes. They will also probably cross hemispheres of your legs.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess here's my tip on life is it's worth the extra 100 feet round trip. Or if it's somewhere you're going to be crossing regularly, put a gate. Put a gate
right?
in there. It's a little extra time in the moment, but it's all right. Or be limber enough to duck under the fence.
Yep.
Or be tall enough to jump over the top, which I almost am. Like if I get a good bounce off one foot, I can usually get up and over and land on the other one. But this was right on the edge of the driveway. It was a bit of a dip. I knew I wasn't going to clear it. It was a bad situation. It was a really bad situation.
Oh, man.
And I had dirt on.
Like most listening audience, I wish I could have witnessed this.
Yeah, I mean, we could have made a fair amount of money. And I had dirt on my knee for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I had to explain that. But yeah, America's Funniest Home Videos. Could have made it.
Oh, we all have those moments. You just hope you're alone when it happens.
And you always pop up and look around like,
yeah,
maybe nobody saw.
Right.
They saw.
Yeah,
they saw. Well, I don't know, man. We have been going a while. What do you suppose? Cut this one off, or?
Yeah, it works for me.
Okay. Well, alrighty. Thank you guys very much for riding along with us. Hopefully you stuck it out this long. I appreciate it if you did.
Absolutely.
Not surprised if you didn't.
No, don't blame you.
Yeah, I don't either. Attention Union Pacific, stop parking trains across the crossings. I know they're listening. So
yeah, we can't park on your tracks.
I'm sure
Stop parking on our roads.
they'll straighten that out Monday for us.
Yeah, they'll have it. Yep.
I'm sure. Well, Tuesday because Monday's a holiday.
Oh, right.
But they'll get that taken care of, I'm sure. So we appreciate you riding around with us. As always, you can find us at the Farmer Tan Podcast on YouTube, on Spotify, on Facebook, and you can do the Farmer Tan Podcast at gmail.com. If you have something you want to talk about, a comment on the show or whatever, we appreciate some of the feedback we have been getting. And I guess until we see you next time, just a friendly reminder, if you're on a motorcycle, you got to pin it to win it. We'll see you. Right?
Right.
I mean, tell me I'm wrong.
No, that's what they're for.
That's what they're for. Pin it wide open. You bought that thing to have fun. Have the most fun you can with it. All right, everybody. Until next time, thanks for riding around with us. We'll see you later.